Hello everybody and welcome back to the second shelf and to another video about my quest to read 1001 books by women that I feel I need to read. If you follow my channel, you know that this project was inspired by Sandy, who is from Ms. Reads a Lot. I will leave a link to her announcement video in the description box as always, and she reads of these books, 1001 books that you have to read before you die. And I loved this project, but I didn't like the books, the lists, because they were very male and very white. And so I made my own list. That's just how I work. Anyway, if you're interested in my list, you will find it on Goodreads. I will leave a link to the Goodreads shelf down below. And each month I pick a couple of 5-6 books that I want to read off that list. And I hope I will make it before I die, indeed. Anyway, March, the numbers first. As of the 1st of March, I have read, let me not mess up the numbers like I did last time. I have read 553 books, which leaves, see, I messed it up again, 453 books, which leaves 548 books still to read. I read six books in February, a total of 12 so far in 2023. So that's not too shabby. I will go through the books that I read in February first, and then I will show you the books that I picked for March. Some of the books, February books, I will be brief because I already talked about them at quite some length in other videos. So the first one was Patricia Highsmith, This Sweet Sickness. I just picked this one, which was published in 1960. I could have picked any Patricia Highsmith. She has to be on the list, so I happen to pick this one. It might very well be because I have this idea of, reading her list, because she's dead, so it's no backlist anymore. And maybe I will switch this one if I find another one that I think is so fantastic that I have to include it. But I also wanted to include one of the less, famous books, because The Talented Mr. Ripley, Strangers on a Train, everybody knows them. And anyway, so this is about, what's his name, David, who has a problem because the woman he loves and is sure she loves him has married another guy. What to do about it? Well, Patricia Highsmith is going to show you what to do. The second one is nonfiction, and that was Eleanor Cleghorn's book Unwell Women, about a journey through medicine and myth in a man-made world. I talked about this book last Wednesday when I did the tops and flops, because this made the tops, and it's just what it says on the cover. It is the author takes you from antiquity until modern times and looks at how male medicine, treats female bodies and female illnesses, whether invented by men or real illnesses, because you have this illness because the uterus wanders through the body. Stuff like that. Anyway, it's infuriating, illuminating, and important, and I really, really loved the book. The next one was the classic. All the classics that I want to read, the 12 classics that I picked to read in 2023, are all on the 1001 list. And in February, I made a review last week. So last Sunday, I filmed a review. The February pick was this one, Olive Schreiner, The Story of an African Farm, published in 1883. And it follows, Olive Schreiner was a white South African author of the 19th century, mid-19th century. And this book focuses on the life, especially of 3 children and growing up on a farm. It has some language in it that we today consider racist and abusive, and it is not a 100% success for me as a novel, because it has very it has quite some essay elements in it that are interesting topics, but I don't like that in a novel. A novel should be telling me a story. If you're interested, you can watch my review. It's certainly worth it to get an idea of what life was like in the 1880s, 1870s in white South Africa on a farm, rural area. But it was not a fantastic novel in my view. The next one was one of the books of my Irish quest. Together with Kim from Middle of the Book March, we are trying to read our way through various female Irish authors. And in February, we read Molly Keane, Good Behavior, published in 1981. And this is the story of a dysfunctional aristocratic family with very little money, but high expectations and attitudes of themselves. And the main character is Arun, the daughter of the family, and it's her story, her life, and the middle is dragging a little bit, I have to say, but it's such a hilarious picture of this family. And the family obviously stands for the quite dysfunctional upper class in Ireland in modern times, with, the alcoholic father and the dominant mother. I mean, that sounds like cliches, but Molly Keane was able to really bring those characters to life. So I definitely very much enjoyed this book. And then I read 2 Iranian novels. That's another thing, you realize already, I try to double dip. So I make a list, of course, of books, 1001 books, but I also try to read books that fit into other reading plans of 2023. And one of them is reading Global South, reading Iranian literature. So 2 were on the list already of the 1001 list, and no, there are more than 2, but I read 2. And the first one is Women Without Men by, sorry for the glare, Shanush Parsipour, and translated from the Farsi, I have to look that up, I'm sorry, by Faridun Farokh. Published in 1989 in Iran, and then in 2012 in the English translation. And this is a book, very slim little book. It has only 117 pages, and it's about the interconnected stories. It's almost a collection of short stories, but but they are interconnected. 5 different women and their life, and especially looking at the relationship with men and the position of women in Iran, and how they try to find a way of living under oppressive circumstances. Not so much politically, but it's a feminist book. I mean, it is feminist press, which is, by the way, another reading project for 2023 that I want to read. Indie presses, focus on indie presses, but also focus on 2 presses that I really like, the Backlist, and one is the Feminist Press, and the other one is Virago Press, who technically is not independent anymore because they were sold to Hachette. But I don't care. I still love them. Anyway, so there is magical realism, women and trees. That's all I'm going to say. But I'm not into magical realism, as you know, probably, if you follow my channel for any length of time. But this was really, I was amazed how much you could pack into such a short book with 5 protagonists. I wasn't completely blown away by it, but it was really a pleasure to read, and it was interesting to read about these women, and not all of them. It's not like, men bad, women good. Mm-mm. There are quite some horrible women in this book, but that makes it even more interesting, I think. So I'm really happy that I read this one. And the other Iranian book, I have to look up the translator. Yes, translated by Mariam Rahmani, and that is Masha Mohebali, in case of emergency. And she is a young, or this is a younger book, so to speak. It was published in 2008 in Iran and 2021 in the English translation. And now I'm somehow losing. Anyway, I read this with JoSmith as a buddy read, and I'm always happy to read with Jo, first of all, of course, but I was particularly happy to have been reading this book as a buddy read because it was kind of a wild ride. It follows Shadi, I think you pronounce her name, Shadi, a young woman, almost a girl still, in Tehran. She is a drug addict, and there is a huge earthquake in Iran, and she is leaving the house, wandering through the city, looking for a fix because her opium stash has run out. It's the Iranian feminist female version of Ulysses. It's one day, and it's a complete psychedelic walk through this city and stuff she encounters, like friends whom she has to help because they passed out in the shower, and she thinks they overdosed. She meets her grandmother, or maybe not. There are riots in Tehran in a central place. Yeah, it's interesting. It's not quite my type of book, I have to say. This very psychedelic way. I feel a little lost, but it was certainly interesting, and it was completely different from my very white Western expectation from a novel from Iran. This is what I expect. This is typical. And this is very, very different. So I'm absolutely happy, very happy that I read this one. So those were the books I read in February, and then my March picks. March is Mystery Madness. And no, I'm not reading mysteries. There are not that many mysteries, or not enough mysteries I haven't read on the list. But the theme of March Mystery Madness is spring cleaning. And the books I picked for March Mystery Madness were a lot of books that I meant to have read a long time ago, or that were lingering on my shelves for way too long. And I thought that is actually a pretty good theme also for the 1001 books I have to read before I die. So the first one is The Leftover from February that I didn't read, and I've been meaning to read it for quite a long time, and that is Eve Ensler, The Vagina Monologues, published in the 1990s. I told you about this book. I read it in German, thinking because of the name this was a German author. It's not. It's an American author. So I will, and it is what it says on the tin. It's the vaginas talking. So I had that on the list for February, didn't get around to read it. So spring cleaning, reading it in March. And an even older book that has been on my list even longer, I'm just checking the publication date, 1970, nonfiction by Shulamit Firestone, The Dialectic of Sex, which was an important book in the 70s, looking at the position of women, and especially the main not premise, how do you call that? The main angle is here that Firestone argues most of the problems that women encounter in terms of inequality is because they have to get pregnant. So let's get rid of pregnancy. I mean, that's very shortcutting the book, but that's the main premise. Again, I read excerpts of this in German a long time ago, in the 80s, 1980s, and this has been on my shelf for years. So I hope finally in March. And another book that I've showed you time and time again, I think since sometime last year, is a translated work of fiction, Carmen Bulosa, the book of Anna, translated from the Spanish by Samantha Schnee. Carmen Bulosa is a Mexican author, and I came across this book on Stephanie's channel from Time to Read, and thought this sounded really exciting and interesting. It is an indie press, Coffee House Press, and it is it's a novel around the book that Anna Karenina is writing, the novel she is writing in Tolstoy's novel, or it's mentioned that she's writing a book, and this novel takes that as a premise and makes a book around it. Sounded fascinating, and it carried it over month after month after month. So spring cleaning, March, yes. The next one is the classic pick for March. I already made a video on Wednesday about last Sunday, about the March pick, and the March pick is Afra Bain Orinoco, published in 1688, and this is following the story of Prince Orinoco, who is from Africa, enslaved and transported to Suriname, and it's about his life. It's also a very short book. It's under 100 pages, and it is on my list of classics, and I picked this for March. And then there are two books that are not spring cleaning books. The first one is Gail Jones, Palmares. This is a book about a dream of a place that has no slavery. That the short, from plantation to plantation, Alma Yeda, a young slave girl, hears whispers of Palmares, a hidden settlement where fugitives live free. So, and I picked it for the author because the author had to be on the list. And the last one is a translated work of fiction, also from the feminist press, The Age of Goodbyes by Li Xishu, translated from the Chinese by Yis Shin. Li Xishu is a Malaysian author, but she writes in Chinese, and the book is set in 1969 in the wake of Malaysia's deadliest race riots, and a woman named Li An secures her place in society by marrying a gangster. Doesn't that sound fascinating? I think it does sound fascinating. So those are the 6 books that I've picked for March. Hopefully, fingers crossed, I will get to all of them, because I still want to be alive when I have read the remaining 500 and something books. But thank you very much for watching. I need to wrap this up now. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. As always, leave me a comment, and I'll see you all soon in the next one.